I still remember the tone of her voice that morning. Calm, almost polite, but cold enough to freeze something inside me. She stood in the kitchen doorway, my daughter-in-law, Anna, holding a cup of coffee as if it gave her courage. And then she said it. "We don't need you here anymore." For a moment, I thought I'd misheard. The words didn't fit the morning light, the smell of toast, or the ticking of the old clock above the stove. But her eyes, steady and certain, told me she meant every word. I stood there, in my own home, in the kitchen where I'd cooked for this family for more than 30 years, and realized I was now an unwanted guest. The silence after her words was heavier than anything I've ever felt. Even the kettle stopped humming, as if the house itself was holding its breath. I wanted to say something, to ask why, to remind her of all the years I'd given, the meals, the care, the love. But my voice wouldn't come. Instead, I just nodded and whispered, "Of course, dear." And that was the day I began to disappear. I was 23 when I married Henry. He was steady, kind, with a quiet smile that made you trust him instantly. We bought a small house in the countryside, not grand, but filled with promise. We built a family there. 2 sons, Michael, the elder, strong and serious, and Peter, the younger, gentle and curious. Life wasn't easy, but we had enough. We grew vegetables in the garden, kept hens, and shared long suppers by the fire. When Henry passed away 15 years ago, I thought I'd never feel whole again. But my boys kept me going, especially Michael, always the responsible one. He married young to Anna, a bright woman from the city with clever eyes and sharp manners. I wanted to love her, and in my own quiet way, I did. But the truth is, some people carry walls around them, invisible but tall. And no matter how kind you are, you never quite find the door in. When their first child was born, I moved in to help. It was supposed to be temporary, just until they got used to things. But months became years. I did what mothers do best. Cooked, cleaned, cared. I looked after the children when they were ill, baked cakes for their birthdays, kept the house warm while they worked late. It was exhausting at times, but it gave me purpose. I told myself I was needed. That's what keeps many of us going, doesn't it? At first, everything seemed fine. Anna was polite, even grateful. But over time, little things began to change. She'd correct me in front of the children. Small things like how I folded the laundry or seasoned the soup. When guests came, she'd introduce me not as Mom, but as Henry's widow who helps with the children. Each word chipped away at something inside me, quietly, slowly. One day, I overheard her on the phone. She was talking to a friend, laughing softly. "Oh, she means well," she said. "But sometimes it feels like she's everywhere. I can't even make tea without her watching." She didn't know I was standing outside the door. I went back to my room, sat on the edge of the bed, and stared at the carpet until my eyes blurred. I never meant to watch. I only wanted to help. But somewhere between helping and hovering, I'd become unnecessary. Still, I stayed quiet. That's what women of my generation were taught. Keep peace, Stay useful, stay grateful. But no matter how softly I moved, I began to feel in the way. She changed the kitchen curtains, said they needed a modern touch. My old armchair by the window was replaced with a sleeker one, and then my baking tins disappeared from the cupboard. The house that once felt like a warm embrace started to feel like a hotel, clean, quiet, and not mine. The breaking point came on an ordinary morning. It was spring. I'd just finished folding laundry and was setting the kettle to boil when Anna came in. She didn't look angry, just tired. And then she said it, calmly, as if commenting on the weather. "We don't need you here anymore." She spoke about how the children were older now, how she wanted her own space again, how I deserved time for myself. Her words were polished, but I could hear what she wasn't saying. She wanted me gone. I remember holding onto the edge of the counter to steady myself. The air felt thin, my throat burned, but I smiled, because that's what I do when my heart breaks. "Of course, dear," I said. "You've done so much for us," she added quickly, avoiding my eyes. "It's only fair you rest now." Rest. That word felt like a curtain being drawn. I packed my things that afternoon. No one offered to help. Michael was at work. The children were at school. I left quietly, closing the door behind me. When I reached the gate, I turned back once. Through the kitchen window, I could see her wiping the counter, the same counter where I'd stood thousands of mornings before. And that's when it hit me. The place I'd poured my love into no longer had a space for me. I moved into a small cottage on the edge of the village, 1 bedroom, a tiny garden, and the faint smell of old lavender. It was quiet, painfully quiet at first. Days passed slowly. I made tea for one. I watched the clock hands move, wondering how time could crawl and fly at once. For weeks, I avoided people. I told myself I was fine, that independence was good for me. But at night, when the wind moved through the trees, I'd hear echoes of children's laughter that weren't really there. Then one morning, I found an old photograph in my suitcase. The whole family standing in the garden. Everyone smiling. Even Anna. I realized then that holding on to anger would only keep me tied to pain. So I wrote a letter. Not of accusation, but gratitude. "Thank you," I wrote, "for giving me years to love and care for your family. I understand now that love changes shape. It doesn't always need a place in the same home. Sometimes it simply learns to stand at a distance." I never sent it, but writing it felt like breathing again. Months later, Michael came to visit. He looked older, gentler somehow. He sat at my kitchen table, the one I'd bought secondhand, and said quietly, "Mom, the kids miss you. Anna, she's sorry." I smiled, not out of bitterness, but peace. "Tell her there's nothing to be sorry for," I said. "Life moves on. We all find our own space." When he left, I stood by the window, watching the evening light spill across the fields. The air was soft, the silence, no longer heavy, felt like a friend. That day, I realized something precious. Even when they no longer need you, love still remains. It just changes where it lives.